Okay, hello class. This lesson for this week, we're going to be studying some of the deep sky objects, which the most commonly viewed and recognized ones are called the Messier objects. Now, what you can do is you will go over to Educreations, and I have a few brief lessons created just on, just some of the objects we'll be looking at, some of the more prominent ones in the sky, and then also a little bit of a history of Charles Messier. When we come into class, we're going to be using the Stellarium app to really dig down into detail, take a look at some of these up close, and we'll study them a little further. What I'm going to need everyone to do, though, first is go either to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. So, despite being on an Apple, I'm an Android person with my mobile devices. So, we're going to go to Google Play, and you're going to look for a planetarium app to have on your phone. There are plenty of free ones out there. One that I think was a good one to use would be, it's called Star Chart, which is right down here. Any of these would work fine for you. I've played around with quite a number of them. They all seem to do pretty much the same thing with the way you can view the stars and the different deep sky objects. So pick one of those, get it on your mobile device, and that'll help when we get into class. And feel free to play around with it as much as you want. I find them to be very useful when I'm out observing. But I also want to talk more in depth about the Messier objects. So we're going to start with a little presentation on the Messier objects. The Messier objects, as we talked about, as we'll be talking about, are the deep sky objects that were originally objects that might have been mistaken for comets by Charles Messier in the 1700s. There are 5 different types. We have the galactic clusters and the open clusters, the planetary nebula, and the emission nebula, which actually can include a few different types, and then we have the galaxies. But wait, 20. So the first ones we want to talk about are the globular clusters. These are densely packed group of stars. They can even number upwards of close to 1 million stars. Obviously, no one would really know the exact total, but these are all stars that form a common origin, and they're just very tightly packed together. The most prominent one, probably one of the easiest ones to find in the sky, is this one here, which is M13 in Hercules. Which is usually good to find in the pretty much all throughout the year. Hercules is visible, but very easy to find, pretty relatively bright. The second type are the open clusters, which are similar to the globulars in that they are stars that all formed in a common region. They're much loosely packed, and some of them even only have dozens or hundreds of stars. In this one right here, we see is a favorite of mine, which is located in Gemini, M35. Very nice cluster. Into the nebulae, there's the planetary nebulae, which are actually remnants of a dying star from which a gas cloud formed. They're so named because they actually, since as you can see, they're somewhat disc shaped when you view them. They could actually be mistaken for planets. They're extremely faint, tough to find because of their faintness. Go. The other nebula fall into 3 different categories. We have reflection, emission, or dark nebula. They're all clouds of stellar gas. The emission nebula are the star-forming regions where stars aren't quite formed yet, so there's these balls of gas that are coming together. One of the most famous and quite iconic pictures was taken by the Hubble roughly about 20 years ago, which is what's called the Pillars of Creation, which really just is a phenomenal example of the star-forming emission nebula. It's in the Eagle Nebula in Sagittarius. Dark nebula are where the dust is kind of hiding the light of the stars behind them, and then reflection nebula are just reflecting the light of the nearby stars. What we have here is a couple of the nebula that are in Orion, which Orion Nebula is, most people are familiar with the Orion constellation, and the Orion Nebula, which constitutes part of his sword, is actually easy to see with the naked eye, even from light polluted areas. Galaxies are the huge objects that are a little tougher to see, with some exceptions, because, quite frankly, they're so far away. The Andromeda Galaxy, which is one of the most prominent ones, is 2.2 million light years away and actually can be seen with the naked eye. So it's pretty impressive that you can see something that, is 2.25 million years old. There's different types. There's this one that you can see here, the pinwheel galaxy. With this image is a spiral galaxy. There's ellipsoidal. There's the galaxies that are on edge. Lots of different types. Difficult to spot because they tend to take up more size and are rather dimmer, and sometimes just appear like a really faint cloud in the system. So that's the overview of the Messier objects. What we do when we get into class, we'll be going over them in much more detail, and we'll be doing activities on Stellarium. So watch the EduCreation videos, get the planetarium app downloaded, and see you in class.